Hello, in this session we're going to talk about attributes. Attributes are simple methods for storing object data. Attributes are usually declared in init, but can also be added to the object at any time. In the following example, init takes two arguments, whereas add an attribute is a method that adds an attribute that it's not declared at init, although this is not a good idea. So we have a class called dataVis, which is inherited from the object. This class has init, so def init have self, data is none, so by default the argument data is none, and data size by default is 0. So we have self.data, which means the attribute data will be given the value from data which is part of init. Now we have another attribute which will get the value from the argument data size. Now we have another method called add additional attribute. So here we have always self and colon self.additional. So as soon as we call add additional attribute, then another attribute will be created. The attribute name will be additional and will be equal to there is another attribute added. So let's minimize this a bit. Go to Spider and we have class data viz inherited from object, column def underscores init underscores self. Arguments are data equals none, by default will equal to none, and data size will be equal to 0, which means that if it is not given, data size will be equal to 0. Okay, here we have self.data, so the first attribute will get the values from data, and self.data size will get the values from data size. So that's it about init. We have another method which is def. The name of the method is add additional attribute from self, column self dot additional equal there is another attribute added. So that's it about the class declaration. Go away from the def and go away from the class. Now, class initialization can be done in many ways so that arguments can be called directly or positionally. Let's do some class initialization. First, we have to create one variable x1 equal array. This is array with two dimensions, 10, 11, 12, 14, and 16. First, initially, we have here the dot, so we must define numpy. So, from numpy, import star. Now, everything is fine. Then we have x2 equal data this. It does not have any argument. So, if it does not have any argument, then the data will be none and the data size will be equal to 0. So, print x2 equal and here x2 dot dict. So, it is 2 underscores, then again we have 2 underscores. F5, why do we have it like this? So, x2 will be created such that the argument data will be none and the data size will be 0. So as soon as it gets the values from here, then the attribute data will be equal to none, which is here. The other attribute data size will get the value from data size, which in this case is 0. We can do this in console. x2.dict. We can have a look at the x2 attributes if we type dot and then dict. So data is equal to none and data size is equal to 0, we get the default values. And here the result will be x2, so attribute data will be none, and attribute data size will be equal to 0. So it's the same as here. Variables x3, x4, and x5 will create an object of type dataVis using different arguments. First we have variable x3, which will get the values from dataVis. We're creating type dataVis, which will get the values from x1. So in this case, data will get the values from x1. So if we execute this and do x3.dict, we'll see the attribute data will get the same values as x1. So the attribute data will get the values array 10, 11, 12, 14, and 16, whereas attribute data size will be equal to 0. Let's copy and paste this and put here x3 and here x3. So the result will be the same. Now we are initializing dataVis such that argument data will be equal to x1, and the result will be the same as here. Now we have x4. x4 will be equal to dataVis. Now we're having two arguments. So the first argument will be x1 and the second argument will be 2. Let's copy and paste this, put x4 here and put x4 here. Execute it and we have it here. x4 will have two attributes. The first attribute is data. It is array with these values because it will get the values from x1, and x1 values are array with the values 10, 11, 12, 14, and 16. Why now data size attribute is equal to 2? Because here we are putting 2. Data size will be equal to 2. So everything is working fine. Now we have x5 is equal to dataVis. Now we would like data to be none, but data size we would like to have a value of 1. In this case, we have to use dictionary initialization, so data size will be equal to 1. So in this case, the argument data is not initialized, so self.data will be equal to none, and self.data size will be equal to 1. Let's copy and paste this. So now we have data is equal to none. Why is none? Because here we are not giving anything for the argument data. Self.data will become none. But here, for the data size, we're giving the value of 1. So self.data size, which means the attribute data size of the object x5 will have the value of 1. Now we have another method which is called additional attribute. As soon as we call add additional attribute, another attribute will be created and this will be the value. So we have it here, x5 dot add an attribute, copy and paste this, but here put after calling add additional attribute, we having here another new line. Execute this. So after execution of this part, variable x5, which will have for the attribute data will be none. It was getting the value from here. Attribute data size will be 1, so it will get the value from the line 26. However, we can see that we have here attribute which is called additional. Where we're getting this from here, and the value of the attribute additional will be there is another attribute added. So that's it for this session. I hope you enjoyed. See you on the next sessions.